What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Coach to Coach podcast. It is episode 11, and today we're going to be doing a Q&A. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, man. Still just working a plan. Weight steady climbing, which still just feeling good. Um, Pretty much the same old from last week.
Yeah. Same.
You're wrapping up your cut, right?
Yeah, so I am now in the second week of moving food up. The first week was not a great week. So I guess I could touch on that because that could be valuable for people. So I was sick last week of the cut and into first week of the bulk. I was sick, just a cold, I guess. Like started with a sore throat, and then that kind of progressed into a bunch of congestion, right? So I never really felt super terrible, but I knew I was sick. You know what I mean? And so I didn't take off from training, which I think I touched on in the last one. I pulled back a little bit with the training. I should have just sat my ass down and taken my own advice. The thing I tell my clients to do is like, just, hey, take time off of the gym, a couple days, get yourself back into a good spot as soon as possible. I didn't do that, but um, you know, last week I was watching my blood pressure and I made a story post about this. I was saying like, I was talking about like some of the supplements that I was starting to use because I could see my blood pressure was rising up. Because I keep track of my blood pressure. I got a little blood pressure cuff right here. That's something that I try to stay on top of a few times a week. And saw my blood pressure coming up, and I had first thought it was just related to my weight moving up a little bit, which that's something like generally when I'm heavier is when I have to really stay on top of my blood pressure. As my weight goes up, it just increases the likelihood that my blood pressure goes up along with it, right? And so, I started to see that happening, and I thought it was just my body weight, which hadn't really changed a whole lot. I'm up a little bit, and I'm trending up. But then I started to get some like fucking crazy readings, like what's going on, right? Like just this isn't normal. It's starting to really trend up. And then I got one that was like basically like go to the hospital, like
Oh wow.
crazy because I started kind of looking, okay, I need to see. So I'm measuring myself at multiple points in the day. And I'm like, I really want to stay on top of this, And so I'm seeing I get one that's just like a crazy read, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Because this is out of the norm. This doesn't fit any trend that I've identified with my body in the past. So like this is weird. What's going on? And I started thinking back, like, okay, like what's really different? Like I changed some of the gear side of things, but it was really early on for me to be seeing anything like that, and just too quick, too fast for this to be coming up like that. And I was like, okay, well, what else is there? And then I started thinking, I'm like, is there any way that cough medication could be causing this? Because I had been taking cough medication like twice a day, like NyQuil, like just
Okay.
or Dayquil, just regular plain Jane Dayquil. And apparently, there are ingredients in these kind of cough medications like Dayquil, particularly the nasal decongestants, that for people that are like kind of sensitive to blood pressure issues, like it can drive your blood pressure up. Um, and so I was like, I had no idea, you know what I mean? And I'm taking
Yeah.
like two servings of this every single day, like the full cap, like the 30 ml, I think. And so pulled that out, and now my blood pressure is back to where it normally is, and everything's
Back to
fine.
normal.
But it was alarming, because I was like, I don't know, I have no idea what's going on. Hydration's on point, like my sleep is as good as it can be right now, but it was just kind of like out of nowhere. So I knew it had to be something that that was recently introduced, and kind of through the process of deduction said, okay, this maybe it's this cough medication. Then I started doing some research, and sure enough, yes, it can actually really jack your blood pressure up. So, pulled that out, and everything's good to go.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting how a few days of something can change so much for you when you're doing almost everything else like correctly, or you're at least monitoring everything
Yeah, yeah,
like just out of the
yeah.
blue.
And so also like if I weren't monitoring it, so check it out. I know what my blood pressure feels like when it's elevated. So I can feel it. I can feel this kind of hazy feeling, like I feel this pressure in my head. I bend over, I can feel my heartbeat. So I kind of know I'm like I know my blood pressure's high, but like if somebody weren't in tune with their body or just weren't, they just not monitoring their blood pressure, they could just be just riding around, you know what I mean,
Right.
with elevated blood pressure, and that's something that acutely like having blood pressure be elevated, it's not a huge deal, but when you spend a lot of time with elevated blood pressure, it's really not great for your cardiovascular system and in particular also your kidneys. That's the number one thing that will cook your kidneys is just having high blood pressure. And once your kidneys are hurt, you can't really unhurt them. So it's something that you want to stay on top of. Especially if you are an enhanced athlete, you're dealing with some of these things that can cause that blood pressure to creep up. It's something you really want to stay on top of.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's something I never would have even thought to check up on.
I wouldn't. I had no idea either. So, but now we know.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so what questions you got? You got a couple questions on your side.
Yeah.
What do you?
I mean, do you want to start with the coaching one first, and then we can kind of get into some other topics? But
Yeah, lay it
I
out there.
got asked, what are some things that we see in other coaches that we maybe don't agree with, or we um, maybe just mistakes that we see them make pretty common and or pretty often. And I know for me, like I get a lot of coaches like going live on TikTok and stuff. And on TikTok, it's kind of quick moving, like the comments and stuff. So they're trying to get to as many people as they can in like a quick time before the comment disappears um, off the screen. But I still see a lot of like just giving arbitrary numbers, like being able to take a very small amount of information, and it seems like they're able to give this person whoever asked the question by the calorie, by the exact number, um, calories or macros or how much of a deficit they need to be in, and I, that's just something that I wouldn't really do. I can kind of understand it because it's like I guess making it seem like exactly to the number what this person needs to do is better than being like, oh, it depends, because that would just be the answer for everyone. And so if it gets people in the door for them to be able to help, I can see that, but I just still think it's like I don't think it's really setting people up for success to just be like, oh, you need to be this because you don't know what that person is eating, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know their energy output throughout the day, their job, their genetic makeup, anything like that. So um, I know for sure that that is something that I see common, and I still see another one that I see a lot of is still the demonization of whole food groups. Like I still see a lot of um, hate on carbs, and you need to cut carbs out, and like completely. Like I've literally heard someone say like you need to stop completely eating carbs; those make you fat, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's just I would never tell someone to do that. I think cutting out whole uh, unless they have some type of sensitivity or an allergy or whatever,
Right.
just cutting out whole food groups is just I don't think people are going to adhere well to that, especially if it's carbs. We all love carbs. You can leverage carbs well for performance and carb cycling to get certain adaptations. Um, but those are what I see common for sure.
So you I don't spend a whole lot of time on TikTok, so like maybe you're seeing things through a different lens than me, or like I guess I'm not paying attention too much. But what I will say is that it is there are a lot of really good coaches out there, a lot of them. And there are a lot of coaches out there that are not good, but they're working on being good, right?
Sure.
And then there are some that are just not good and will never be good because they just want to make money. Okay. And for me, it's really easy to see, like to filter these people and see them, because a lot of times, like, a coach that hasn't really spent a lot of time in the game or worked with a lot of people, they'll speak oftentimes in absolutes. This is what it's supposed to be. This is what you should do. And if you've worked with a good amount of people, you're going to understand that there are no rules and it always depends. Because what is optimal on paper may not be optimal for that person as an individual. So the diet, the training, all these things actually need to be molded and adjusted around this unique person and their context and their life and all the things they have going on in a way that allows them to be consistent and compliant. And that might mean that it's not the best plan or what you should do. But again, like, an optimal plan on paper doesn't fucking matter if this person's not going to follow it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for
anytime
sure.
I see somebody speaking in absolutes, that kind of tells me, like, okay, this person is not. So on the other side of that's kind of where social media pushes coaches or pushes content creators or educators. You almost have to get information across in a very specific way, because saying, I don't know, it depends, I would have to work with you to give you an actual answer, is not sexy. Like, nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear the specific answer to their question. And the answer is usually it fucking depends. I don't know. Like,
Right.
I have to get in and spend time and see, but I think that's kind of the nature of social media, is that it almost forces you into a corner to just give an answer, and so sometimes that can come across, you know, as something that's really not. But like you were saying, you may need to just give that short answer to make it seem like this is the way, in order to get somebody in the door, and then show them, through more time working with them, exactly how it should play out. You know what I mean?
Right, right. That yeah,
Um,
every coach would be saying, "Ah, it depends," and then I think coming from like a client standpoint, or someone who's like wanting a coach, you don't really know like where to go. To just always hear that answer would probably make me feel like I might just be screwed. Like,
yeah, yeah. I had a client send me an Instagram reel of another coach, and this coach, she was basically saying, like, stop over consuming protein. There's no reason to over consume protein. You should be at zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of protein max. Like, just put the other calories into, into carbohydrates or into fats or whatever. Right. And it was very absolute. And, my client that sent that to me was like, well, what do you think about this? Because his protein is higher than 1 gram per pound. And I told him, I said, she's right and she's wrong. There are a number of reasons why you might have somebody's protein intake jacked way the fuck up. One of which is, okay, let's say that you're coming out of a diet phase. You've peeled off a bunch of body fat off of your body. Appetite is high, right? So I might actually, on the turnaround, when we start putting food back in, I might lean into protein harder than I normally would, if I'm getting the signs from the client that that's the right thing to do, right? They're relaying to me appetite is high. Maybe they've had some slip ups on the diet. So if I start working carbohydrates up, what is that going to do? Carbs taste good. Carbs they're going to fuel that appetite even more, right? So maybe I start that surplus off, or turn that ship around by working up protein, which is a high satiety food. It's going to make you feel fuller. It's going to make you feel satisfied, right? And so that might be able to kind of calm some of that hunger down, and make sure that they're in a good spot when we're turning the ship around in this transition phase. And once we get some separation between that high food focus, then we can start working the carbohydrates up, right? I might have a client that is deep into a growth phase and body composition has started to get a little bit soft. I might have a period where I pull down their carbohydrates and I pump up their protein. Total calories are the same, but I've just gone down on the carbs, up on the protein. Total calories are the same. I guarantee you, if you exchange a significant amount of calories from carbs into protein and equate calories, you're going to see a change in body composition. You're going to see things
Right.
shift a little bit. So there are, and beyond that, like personal preference, there's a whole number of reasons why you might not just stick to zero point 0.8 to 1 gram a pound per protein. It depends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It depends on what's going on, you know?
Yeah. I there was a there was another one. It's like it's just back along the lines of like things that we see coaches do. And this guy's like a powerlifting coach, and so this was also on TikTok, like kind of fast moving comments, that type of setup. But you might know more about this than I would. But a kid was in there and he was saying, "I'm 165. I want to bench press X amount." And the guy flat out said, "I'd like to see you gain 40 pounds by the end of the year." And like kind of just like that's it. Like just
So
just gain 40
yeah,
pounds
I'll tell, and
in the
he
gym.
would, and his bench press would 100% go up. And I'll tell you why that's the easy thing for a powerlifting coach to say, because you don't have to program. If the fucking program stayed exactly the same and that person gained 40 pounds of body weight, their strength is going to go up. So that he's right. But also, what if that person doesn't want to gain 40 fucking pounds? Right?
Yeah.
What if that person and also like by the end of the year, like what do you break that down into a timeline? What sort of rate of gain are you going to need to establish in order to gain 40 pounds in a fucking year? I guarantee you're just going to end up fat, right?
Right.
So that's the easy answer because it will work. But the right answer, I guess, in my opinion, is like you need to. It's a program. It's a program specific to where you are deficient at in all the things that matter related to bench press. So you need to analyze where the stick points are. You need to analyze where the weak points are and program for that. That's a lot more involved than just eat more food and gain weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I was just hung up on just like the like wow, just gain 40 pounds. Like because I think I've heard you say too. Like you don't have to be like fat to be like a strong power lifter. And so to just tell someone that you don't even really know, like you don't know anything about this kid, for him to be like, "Oh, just throw 40 pounds on," it's like, well, I mean, like, are you kind of just setting the kid up for failure? Like, because then if he doesn't put 40 pounds on, is he just going to be like, "Oh, just scrap everything"? Like, now he's maybe 20 pounds heavier, feeling worse about himself, looking worse, and then he's also not pushing the weight that he wants. So
There's too many layers to there's too many it's so like I said it's a at its core it's true what he said. Gain 40 pounds, you'll have a bigger bench press 100%. But I might have maybe phrased it and said like, hey, a bigger human being is generally going to be a stronger human being. So if you can focus on eating some good food and getting your body weight moving up, and I might not have put specific targets on it, but I'll say, hey, that's going to be a something that's going to move you in the right direction. But again, that's not as sexy as 40 pounds, strong as
yeah,
fuck.
yeah, yeah,
You know.
definitely.
Okay, so I got a couple of supplement questions, and so I had two questions come in from Kelsey Lynn Fit and Lyric Fitness, and they're both basically the same questions. So like, Kelsey said, what supplements at a minimum should everyone take? And Lyric Fitness said, top 5 health supplements you would recommend. So I can basically wrap this into all one, like it's the same question essentially. What do you have 5 that you would suggest? And maybe not even 5, but like just the top whatever that you would suggest to clients?
Could you re-ask that? You were like cutting in and out the entire time you asked that question.
Top 5 supplements that you would recommend.
Um, Creatine, fish oils, a whey protein supplement. Um, like just household, like not even performance based, really.
There's no so Lyric Fitness asked top 5 health supplements, and Kelsey asked what
Oh,
supplements at a
health.
minimum. What's up? So we can just make this simple and just say, top 5 supplements. It doesn't necessarily have to be health.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I thought you said house, like just to have her on the house. I was like, I don't know. Creatine for sure. I like a whey protein supplement for just quick, easy protein. Super convenient. Fish oil, inflammation, hormone health, brain function, heart health. I could see where a multivitamin fits in there somewhere if you are, depending on what your dieting is, if you're pulling food back pretty rapidly. I could see a spot in there for a multivitamin, and I don't even really think I have a fifth.
Yeah, that's all right. Those are good.
Yeah,
Those are
honestly, I don't have
solid.
a fifth.
Yeah, I largely agree with that. And most of the supplements that I'm, thinking about are really related to like where are a lot of people deficient at as a baseline, and also just through the health lens more than the sports performance lens, because there's really only like for the performance side of thing, like creatine,
Yeah,
like
maybe
you may
pre-workout.
throw in some pump products or something like that,
Yeah,
but it's basically creatine. But yeah, I'm aligned with you with fish oil. So fish oil, it's basically fish oil is a source of omega-3 fatty acids. The ones that we're after in fish oil are specifically EPA and DHA. Okay, so our bodies can't really readily make those essential fatty acids, so they need to be consumed, and they are basically involved in tons of processes in the body. Okay, so what do you get out of fish oil specifically? It's going to help to improve your lipid profile, so your HDL is improved. It can have impact on the LDL, but maybe not as dramatically. Inflammatory markers, it actually can act as a blood thinner. So if you're talking about clotting risks, right, it can help to make sure that your blood is moving freely and less like sticky, basically. What else? Brain. I know that there's some information about like fish oil and depression and whatnot. I don't know how much. Like I haven't read into that a whole bunch, but I'm mostly looking at fish oil as a supplement to make sure that we're getting in some really high quality essential fatty acids and the omega 3s, the inflammatory aspect, and the lipid aspect. Those are really why I'm looking at those things. And if you're on the enhanced side of things, your lipids will be skewed. So fish oil is something you want to have in the mix. You want to try to, prop up your lipid profile as much as you can because it's going to be skewed. So, I generally go for 2 to 3,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA. And what does that mean? You need to look at the label on your fish oil. Look and see how much EPA and DHA in terms of milligrams is in that fish oil. Don't just say it's a 1 gram fish oil cap. It's a 1,000 milligram fish oil cap. No, no, no. Look at the label. How much EPA, how much DHA. Combine those two things, right? And you want that number to be 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams. So you need to take as many pills as you need to take for it to be in that range. So generally with the fish oil too, the higher the EPA and DHA per serving, the higher quality the fish oil is. So if you've got a fish oil that doesn't really have, it's maybe got like 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams of EPA and DHA, that's not a high quality fish oil. It's just, it's diluted. So you want something that is the highest milligram amount that you can find. I like doing Nordic Naturals is great. Carlson's fish oil is great. Now has a liquid fish oil that I'm currently using that's great. Sports Research has a capsules and liquid fish oil, all very, very high concentration EPA and DHA. And then I store mine in the refrigerator because there is some, I think, valid concern for oxidation of the fish oil. If it's sat on the shelf, it can start to lose its potency. It can oxidize and turn rancid, right? And you don't want to put that in your body because oxidative stress. Hey, we're trying to reduce oxidative stress. So you want to make sure that you keep your fish oil nice and fresh, and you do so by just storing it in the refrigerator. Um, Another one would be magnesium. That's, in my opinion, that's something that pretty much everybody should be using because there is a very high amount of people that are magnesium deficient. I look at blood work with some frequency, and I see it very commonly. Magnesium is actually, it's like a mineral. It's involved in a bunch of processes in your body from metabolism to your central nervous system, muscle contractions. It can actually reduce the kind of tension in your blood vessels and get them to relax. So it can improve blood pressure, which is why I take a high amount of magnesium every day. I think it's one of those supplements that is just absolutely wonderful and that pretty much everybody should be using. On that, you can actually test to see if you're magnesium deficient with some amount of confidence. Look, you can get a magnesium serum test, which tests like how much magnesium is present in your blood. But check it out. The we don't store all our magnesium in our blood. We store a small amount in blood, in serum. Most of the magnesium we have in our body is elsewhere. It's in tissue, it's in bone, it's in other places. Okay. So you might be able to get a magnesium serum test and it says, hey, you're good, you're in range, but that's not actually reflective of your magnesium status. So something that you can look at is alkaline phosphatase, which is ALP on blood work. Phosphatase or phosphate, I can't remember. It's ALP, alkaline phosphatase. That is a magnesium dependent enzyme. So it's basically as simple as this. It's a bit of a proxy, but basically if your ALP is low, it's very likely that your magnesium is low. It's that simple. So, and there's a range. I wish I knew the range off the top of my head, but a lot of people are in range on blood work, but anything below 60 is pretty confident that you have some sort of magnesium deficient present. Where it gets a little bit tricky is that the ALP is not just related to magnesium. It also has to do with zinc and vitamin B6. So those could also show up in the ALP being a little bit low. But the way that I like to do it is like, okay, ALP is low. Let's go ahead, plug in some magnesium, and then down the road, we'll test again. If ALP is still low and we're taking a decent dose of magnesium, then I might move to zinc, right? So now we're supplementing magnesium. Now we're supplementing zinc. Okay, we're supplementing zinc. We test later down the road. Now that ALP is where we want it to be at, all right, just keep those things in place because you need them. You know what I mean? But yeah, magnesium is a huge one.
And there's before you
And
get to the next one, I know there's like a couple different forms of magnesium. Would you say that people need to worry about the form that they're taking for certain things?
yeah, yes and no. You can get really in the weeds with it. I generally just suggest magnesium glycinate. Like there's some differences in bioavailability and absorption and like where in your digestive tract it actually gets absorbed. So like, some types of magnesium, like I think a magnesium citrate we have here too, can actually use that as a bit of a stool softener / laxative because it'll draw water into your digestive tract and can help to clean you out. But generally, magnesium glycinate is not going to have that impact, and you can take a pretty decent amount of it in a single shot and not really run into those issues. I personally take anywhere from 900 to 1200 milligrams of magnesium a day, which is quite a bit. Most servings of magnesium are going to be 300, 400 milligrams. And so I take, some with each of my meals throughout the day and accumulate it. I think if I were to take all that in one shot, I would probably shit my brains out, even on magnesium glycinate,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great one. You know, if you're a hard trainer, if you're on exogenous hormones, if you are a highly stressed individual, social work, whatever, you burn through magnesium at an accelerated rate, and odds are you would do good to plug that in. Yeah. Um, yeah, vitamin D. Vitamin D is one too. And vitamin D is like it's a hormone. It's a sunlight hormone. It's not just a supplement. So that's something that is also involved in a ton of processes in the body. And as a result of our modern living, where not a lot of us are getting out into the sunlight, it's very common to be to be vitamin D deficient, right? So that would be one that would be a good idea to plug in. And you can actually get a double whammy on this one, a 2-for-1. Cod liver oil is actually quite high in vitamin D. I think a couple grams, like a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon of cod liver oil, it's going to get you some of that EPA and DHA, right? So you're getting some of those essential fatty acids, and you're also going to get like 1,000 IU. Don't quote me on that, but you're going to get a pretty decent dose of vitamin D as well. So that's one that you could kind of do a 2-for-1. But that would be one that I would suggest. And then beyond that, N-acetylcysteine. Yeah,
NXT.
N-acetylcysteine. Yeah, which is basically it acts as a substrate for glutathione. Um, you know, cysteine is kind of the precursor slash substrate. Like your body needs cysteine in order to be able to produce glutathione, which is a very powerful antioxidant in the body. So if you don't have enough cysteine present, you probably won't be making enough glutathione. So, you know, what is NAC going to do for you? It's going to make sure you have enough glutathione in your body. It's going to help with your liver function, with your immune function, and your antioxidant status. It is all around a great thing to have into the mix. And I use glutathione directly itself here and there, but my opinion on glutathione is that I don't want to skip that conversion process, right? So like with NAC, you can take as much N-acetylcysteine as you want, but your body is only ever going to produce as much glutathione from it as it needs. Versus if you're just slamming glutathione every day, day in, day out, you're skipping that regulatory process, right? And so, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I'm just going to let my body do its own thing and determine how much it needs. And if I have a targeted need for glutathione, like say I get sick, hey, I plug some glutathione in. You know, I'm going to hit myself with some glutathione, but as a baseline, just N-acetylcysteine. You know.
Yeah.
And then my last one it could be a multivitamin, but I think that there's more use case for a multivitamin when you are in a caloric deficit, and it's more likely that you are going to be at a deficiency in micronutrients because just your total calorie intake is not sufficient, right? To make sure you'd have to like really make sure you're staying on top of your shit in a calorie deficit to hit all your micronutrients. Versus when you have an excess of calories, you have to eat like an asshole to basically be micronutrient deficient. Like you get some accuracy by volume by just having higher calorie intake. But I think like with the multivitamin, I think that just like the glutathione, I think that plugging too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. And I think if you're plugging in incredibly high amounts of synthetic vitamins in high quantities needlessly, I think maybe at worst, at least you're wasting your money. And at most, maybe there's some downstream effects that you don't want. So that's how I would kind of look at the multivitamin. It's probably best when you are in a caloric deficit, you know, but in a surplus, hey, I don't know that you actually need it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd agree.
Um, all right, what else you got? So you had something about Diamond Gym, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, I mean, to kind of preface what Diamond Gym is kind of, I see a lot of talks about it just everywhere. Their workouts look pretty exhausting, pretty extreme. The environment is kind of it's gritty. It's like it's rugged. I personally, um, I love that type of content. Like I love that type of setting. I love that like that style of training. Um, and I think like when I first started working out, it was videos like or it was people like CT Fletcher and like Mike Rashid
Mm.
and like Big Rob and all them like literally
Yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah.
like what Diamond Jim pretty much is doing. It's a bit different, but that hardcore like that stuff was like what excited me, and I think um like with just how sciency it seems like lifting's got like that brand, that style of doing things is just like you didn't see it very much, or maybe I just wasn't watching the right people. But like that stuff, just like I'll throw that on in the headphones while I'm at the gym, just so I feel like I'm in that type of setting.
Hmm.
I personally I love that stuff, and I think it's cool to see that style still like being around and having its place. It does get a lot of criticism too because it's like the things that you see these guys doing. It's like some of the stuff isn't full reps or the weight is just simply too heavy. There's not really any structure to the workouts, or maybe there is, but it just I think to a lot of um, people who do this as like a job, they would never tell a client to work out like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I also see the criticism coming from like I just think it's like they're not trying to do what you do. They're not trying to be Jeff Nippard. They're not trying to be like I don't just some of these other sciency guys. Like that stuff is not for you. It's not meant so you can analyze it and be like, oh, they're actually doing this and this is going to benefit muscle growth and all these critiques. It's like that's not what they're going for. Um,
Yeah, yeah. You can't put a round peg in a square hole. Like that's not what it is. That's not what they're doing. They don't give a fuck about any of that. And like my perspective on it is like I think it's like fuck if you like it, if you like doing that, if you like training that way, go for it. That's not how I'm going to train.
yeah,
That's not how I want to train because my goal and at this point in time is more so about building my physique. And I don't think that that's the best way to go about building a physique. And I'm also not trying to get hurt. And so I have all
yeah,
these considerations. Like, and if at the end of the day, like, it can feel awesome to just get in and slang weight and move around. But I promise you, once you start getting to a certain age, you start thinking about this shit, right? You start thinking about, okay, well, what if I tear a bicep or tear a pec? It's not just about I have a torn muscle, I can't work out. It's about you got to have surgery. Surgery costs money, right?
yeah,
Like, like, am I going to be out of work? Like, so there's a whole lot of considerations beyond just like, that just moving weight. You know what I mean? And it looking cool. But I think where there's a ton of value in what they do is, is again not looking at it from a physique development perspective. Look at it from a mindset development perspective. Like you're getting into this place, you're fucking putting it all out on the table. You're doing it when everything in your body is telling you to stop. You're seeing how far you can push your body. I think that has far more carryover. That type of approach, that type of execution on training has much more carryover in terms of your mental than it does for your physique. And I think if that's what you're trying to get out of it, then that's perfectly fine, But you can't put a round peg into a square hole. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people on social media, they're just in their own little bubble. You know what I mean? So when they
sure,
see something like this slide across their feed, of course they're going to try to tear it apart because they're looking at it through the wrong fucking lens, right?
yeah, yeah, and I think it's towards the beginning too, like when they started really like gaining some traction and stuff. I kind of thought I was like, this is a bit dumb, just because I wouldn't do it. But then like literally taking a step back, and I'm like, well. what got me in the gym and what got me excited to go was people like CT, CT Fletcher and that similar style of doing things. Um, but yeah, would I do that or would I give that to a client? I don't even know how you would put that in a program, honestly. But yeah, no,
You don't,
I
because
wouldn't
that's
do
an
it for myself.
experience. You can't
Right,
program that. That is the boys. You can't program something like a person either has that or they don't, or like a person that's training on their own. They either have that gear or they don't, or you're going to have to be around a group of individuals that are bringing that energy and everybody's coming together. You can't program something like that.
right,
That's a fucking feeling, not something you can just write down on a piece of paper. Like, you know what I mean?
right.
Yeah.
Go do this. Yeah,
Right. Right. It's not gonna happen. You can't make that up. You know what I mean? And I think some of it, like they probably turn the dial up for the camera a little bit, you know what I mean?
for
But
sure.
that doesn't necessarily make it any less real, you know?
Yeah, it's turned into like a challenge now because they'll bring the big influencers out. So yeah, I'm wondering like, would y'all just be doing this on just like a random Wednesday, or like are you doing this because you got Alex Eubank and the Trend Twins in there? Like,
I'm I'm willing to bet when I say they turn the dial up, I'm willing to bet they turn the dial up from like a 8 to a 10. They're not probably operating
yeah,
as a baseline at a 5. You know what I mean? They're they're
yeah,
they're
100%.
they're probably really about that life, but maybe the camera's there. They're trying to fuck this dude up, so they're like really
Yeah,
turning that dial up. But the baseline is still way higher than
higher. Yep.
most. Yeah, yeah, for sure. 100%. All right, you got anything else? Man, 45 minutes. It's gone
That
by.
flew by. No, that was it, man.
Yeah, yeah. All right, that's all I got too. So we'll
Beautiful.
wrap this one up. Yeah, thanks for watching along. Give us a like, give us a sub, leave a comment, engage with us, help us out,
Yes,
and
please.
we'll see you. We'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.
See you.